This last video is going to go through the bones of the lower limb. And so I'm going to start by looking at the femur, and the femur is a rather large bone, so it's hard for me to get the whole thing in the view. So we're going to start by looking at the proximal end of the femur. And I mentioned in the last video that the acetabulum is where the femur articulates with the hip. And so this is the head of the femur, and it's covered in articular cartilage. It's a hyaline cartilage that ensures that there's smooth movement between the os coxae and the femur. I should say os coxa, since I'm only talking about one. So this is clearly a ball and socket joint, right? Multiaxial movement. From the head of the femur, we go down to the neck, and we have two bumps. Here's one, and here's the other. These are called the greater and lesser trochanter. Okay? And I'm actually going to turn to the posterior side so you can see those bumps better. So this is the greater trochanter, and this is the lesser trochanter. And if you touch your own hip, you can kind of feel that bony trochanter, greater trochanter coming out. Okay? So this is the proximal head and the proximal epiphysis of the femur with the head, neck, greater trochanter, and lesser trochanter. I'm going to move down to the distal end of the femur, and we're going to look, let's see if we can get a good view here. So right here is where the femur and the tibia interact, forming the knee joint, okay? And so where they articulate with one another, there are condyles. And so we're going to have some more articular cartilage here that allows for smooth interaction between the femur and the tibia. Above the condyles are these little bumps called epicondyles. Epi means over, right? So we have the epicondyles and the condyles. And so we have to look down here. So this is the medial part of the bone. This is the lateral part of the bone. We're going to come down here. So this is the medial condyle and epicondyle, and this is the lateral condyle and epicondyle. Okay? All right. So here is where the tibia and the femur interact. And so we can see, again, we can see the articular cartilage here. And as far as landmarks of the tibia go, there's this bumpy part. And so if you were to reach down and touch just under your knee, you would feel this bumpy part. It's quite prominent. And that is called the tibial tuberosity. Okay? And so we have the tibial tuberosity. Here we have medial and lateral condyles, just like we talked about on the femur. Then we're going to go all the way down, and we see this kind of hook-shaped bump. And this is called the medial malleolus, okay? And if you were to touch your ankle, this is the bumpy part on the medial side of your ankle, okay? And so we're gonna hook this over here. So this bone is the fibula, and the fibula is kind of like a support bone, okay? And the fibula forms the lateral malleolus. So let me see if I can hold this without it slipping. So this forms the lateral malleolus. I think I might have this backwards. There we go. That fits much better. All right, so the lateral malleolus and the medial malleolus. And let me just grab my foot. And you can see how the lateral and medial malleolus form a joint with one of the ankle bones, and it's called the talus. Okay, this bone's the talus. Okay, and so now we get to look at the fun feet bones. And so there's all sorts of these kind of cube-shaped bones. Some of them are more oddly shaped than others. And this I've already identified as the talus. The talus is where the fibula and the tibia kind of articulate with the foot bones. And this bone right here is the calcaneus, the heel. Okay, all of these cube-shaped bones going back towards the calcaneus and including the calcaneus, these are called tarsals. Okay, and then the first long bones that we see are called metatarsals, and these over here are phalanges.